Mr. McIntyre, I want to throw 100.
Is it recording?
Can you give a poor boy 5 miles per hour?
Are you recording it?
Yeah.
I hope he puts it in the intro. Alright, so welcome back to another edition of the Throw Harder series. In today's video, we're going to be talking about intent in throwing and what that means to me and what it can maybe mean to you as far as how to reach, hopefully, your velo goal. What's up, everybody? My name is Aiden McIntyre. I'm a baseball player with the Oakland Athletics organization, and this is my channel. Again, my name is Aiden McIntyre. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, I appreciate the support. All right, so since this is the second video in the Throw Harder series, if you haven't seen the first video, it was how I transitioned from throwing 80, 85 to 95, 96. So if you haven't watched that, would also recommend watching that. But today we're gonna be talking about one of the more important things that helped me gain my velo, which is intent. And we're gonna talk about what it means to me, how I kind of learned it, and the different two types of intent that I believe are in the throwing process. So why I'm talking about intent. I think intent and effort is one of the actually least talked about things in pitching, which sounds kind of crazy, but especially from a younger age, you're always taught to throw strikes, command, not try too hard, don't blow it out. All these things that really kind of hold pitchers back from actually potentially reaching their peak velo, especially at like a younger age. But once you get into high school, college, intent really does matter. And the guys who throw the hardest usually have the best mechanics, the best effort levels. So all these things kind of matter. So we're gonna talk about intent today. And the place I learned intent was driveline baseball, which of course, I think a lot of people think of driveline and they automatically think of velo and they think of weighted balls and all these things. And some of that is very true. Driveline does a lot of things well. But when I went to driveline in summer of 17, that was the first time that I was really like told, and this is what I was told, was like, well, you should try throwing harder. And that was the first time I'd ever really heard that. And it's kind of a joke of, well, like, okay, well, you just threw 88, you should just try harder. But for me, it was the first time I had ever like been encouraged to really try harder from an effort level. So it really like resonated with me and I loved it. So that's kind of a running joke at driveline is, well, like if you throw 96, you should just try harder and you'll throw 97. And there definitely is some actual truth in it as well as kind of like the joke of it. So I appreciate all the trainers who initially would tell me that like I should just try harder, because that's what I'm still doing to this day. All right, so we're gonna cover it in two different sections because that's what I think is important to me. So we're gonna go over beginner intent and then learned intent. So it's part one, part two, because again, you kind of have to learn intent and then like the beginning side of it, and then you get to apply it once you get better at moving and you're kind of starting to like develop it. All right, so for part one, which is beginner intent. Beginner intent is literally like you're trying to move as fast as you can all the time, just like go, go, go. That's where we implement like pull downs, plyo velo, like that's where you hear the whole like, it's like heavy EDM, metal music, like smelling salts. It's kind of like joke of pretty much how can you try to go as fast as possible? Because again, when you're learning intent, you've probably thought that, you've tried to throw as hard as you can, but it's that whole like, you actually learn that you definitely have more intent. So that's like beginning intent is pretty much trying to learn what your actual 100% tank looks like. So it's not like, if you think you're throwing as hard as you can and you're throwing 84, you might just have more in the tank by just trying harder. So that's kind of like beginning to learn intent, is literally just trying. Trying and failing is okay, but you definitely have to try to learn intent to actually eventually get it. But so the very beginning stage of it is just try really hard. Do anything you can, and that's kind of the goal, is just to move as fast as you can until your body kind of learns that, oh, like we can do this, we can move faster. And then that kind of gets us into part two. So that's part one of intent, is just like learning it. Part two is kind of learned intent. That's once you've kind of developed and you've either been probably in a throwing program long enough, you're strong, you've been lifting for a while, and you're kind of learning like how hard you can throw and kind of when to do it. So there's this whole saying in baseball that pitching is Mozart and then it's metal. And that's kind of, to me, is learned intent. That isn't like, you're not just like sporadically going as fast as you can. It's the whole like under control, and then at a certain point in your delivery, it's fast. And so for me, like when I learned intent, and I feel like I actually really got it, it was everything is about building up momentum from leg lift as you're getting down to the mound, and then that moment when you have foot strike, that's when you have to go fast. So that's kind of like learned intent, and it feels different for every guy. Some guys are kind of fast the whole way through. Some guys are like super slow and then it's fast. But this is how, like when you watch guys in the big leagues and they throw 100 and it looks like super easy, all of those guys are trying hard. It's not like those guys, if they just tried harder, they would throw harder. It's about like being perfectly synced up and trying at the right time. So that's learned intent, and that's kind of comes after trying to find it. Is like now you know when to apply. And that's kind of the biggest part of like the second part of knowing when to implement that intensity. All right, so obviously professional pitcher, I've worked as a trainer, but this isn't me saying that you need to go outside and pick up a ball and try to throw it as hard as you can. It's not what we're saying. You have to get on a proper program. You have to be properly on-ramped. You have to be strong enough. You have to have correct mobility. So do not just tell me that you like went out and threw a ball as hard as you can and now you don't feel good. Because that's not what I'm saying. So this is all, pitching is a progression. So if you are 14 watching this video, your progression is going to be different than someone who's 18 and watching this video who's 23. It's all different, but properly on-ramp, properly do all the right things before this. You don't just get to go outside and try as hard as you can. Not how it works. Just putting that out there, that's a disclaimer. And then the other thing so those are really the two things that I believe in from an intent standpoint. And you kind of like learn different cues, timing, all that good stuff. The other part of it is it's definitely a mental and physical, because there's obviously the physicality of like grunting, moving as fast as you can, like kind of bulldozing through stuff. But there's also like the mental side of like your intent kind of is so focused. And that's like you watch like guys like Scherzer who just like look so intense, and they're so like their intent is all on like that one pitch. So he's not out there trying to throw every pitch as hard as he can. That's not his intent. Like intent also comes back to like execution, how bad you're trying to execute that spot. So it's definitely mental and physical. The physical side of it you kind of have to learn first, and then the mental side of it is like honing in on what you're trying to do. So it's definitely both sides, that you need both sides to be a very good pitcher. And the last thing too, pitching is obviously, like I said, it's a developmental thing. It keeps growing. It takes years and years and years. Nobody suddenly just became this amazing pitcher in a 2-month period. It doesn't really happen. You can definitely improve. But the other thing too with like, so trying, if you suddenly now are like, okay, well, I'm just gonna try, I'm gonna hit a new PR, and you don't, it doesn't mean that you have to like stop. It's not how it works. You just kind of get to keep working with it and keep trying to build on it. And again, it all comes down to how much effort you're willing to put in. So I recommend anyone who really wants to improve velo or just like get to the college level, get to the pro level, just commit to it. And it's just like a time and intent and focus. So that's where the intent is kind of through training, throwing, lifting, everything. But you can't just try your way to like a new PR and then just try harder and you find a new PR. You kind of max out. So at some point, like effort isn't what's going to get you to that next like level. It's going to be your strength, your mobility, your sleep, your eating, your movement, all this different stuff. So you can't just try your way to 105. Not how it works. You have to move well too. But you can definitely go from 80 to like 83 by probably trying. So that is it. This is part 2 of the Throw Harder series. I really do appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure you are subscribed, and I hope this video helped. Drop a comment down below on what your current velo is and what you want your next velo day to be. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.